Welcome to the Mindset Connection podcast. We are your hosts, Jennifer Clearwaters and Cindy O'Connell. Thank you for coming back to us. This is our second episode, and in each one, we are showcasing everyday change makers who are doing extraordinary things in the field of mental health and wellness. So today, we are very happy to welcome our friend and colleague, Dr. Thomas Crowley, to the podcast. I'm going to give you a little bit of background about Dr. Crowley. He is a licensed professional counselor and a nationally certified counselor and has had several professions in addition to this. Dr. Crowley completed his bachelor's in sociology and psych education from St. Lawrence University, completed 2 master's degrees, one from Boston University for education and the other from Montclair State for student personnel services. He also has an educational doctorate in counseling supervision from NYU. Dr. Crowley worked in public education in Madison as a psychology teacher, a school counselor, assistant principal, and served as a wrestling coach and an advisor for a peer counseling program. He later became the principal of Point Pleasant Beach High School and then the superintendent of schools and a founding trustee of the Point Pleasant Beach Public Education Foundation. Just a side note, the town has an auditorium named after him, which is pretty amazing. Dr. Crowley was an associate professor and an assistant dean at Georgian Court University. This is actually where I first met him when I was taking classes there. Dr. Crowley returned to counseling and moved into private practice in 2005 and has served as the president of the New Jersey Counseling Association. So in addition to all of this wonderful work, Dr. Crowley has also served as a firefighter for the Seagirt Fire Company for the past 30 years and was also the president there. He's been a member of the Montclair Volunteer Ambulance Unit for 10 years and served as an EMT and a captain. He's also been an EMT for the Manasquan First Aid Squad for 15 years and served as captain, CPR instructor, and Education Foundation trustee. Dr. Crowley has also served as a councilman for Seagirt Borough and is a U.S. Army veteran. Thank you for your service. And we are so glad that you agreed to come on our podcast today.
Thanks for having me.
Yes.
All right. So I'm going to start with the questions. So is there one lesson that you learned in your illustrious career or multitude of careers? And what would it be and how has it shaped you?
Well, I learned a lot of lessons, many the hard way. But the probably the lesson that I would comment on here would be there's too much to know and too little time to know it. Mm-hmm. There's so many things to learn about and know about. And as a counselor, it's even more true because each presenting patient would have different issues and different things. I lean a lot on colleagues, people to talk to on a regular basis. I like online workshops, and you can buy a subscription and unlimited access to, I'm thinking of NetCE or Continue Ed or ACA. Mm-hmm. They all have these things. And so sometimes I'll be thinking, well, this has come up, so I'll go find one of their things and put it on, and it's useful. I think there's lots of resources. The conventions and things I go to once in a while, but not that often. And now they're all online anyway, but I think that the stuff you need to know is just so much. And it's not, a lot of it's refresher too. I haven't thought about that in a while. And there's new things, that I don't know about. Things like your book and and Jen, she's a colleague and the whole mindfulness world. I'm an old guy and it wasn't around when I was being trained and coming through. And, there's lots of great new things now. She even taught me about Reiki.
Yes,
she did. She came and showed me how it worked. And
yep.
I couldn't have imagined it. And she said, well, this could be helpful.
Well, Dr. Crowley, you are practicing mindfulness because you have beginner's mind. Because you are open to all things, and from what you just said, that's very clear. You seek out others, communicate, you do research, and you're open. This mindfulness thing, you didn't say, "Oh, let me shut it down." You said, "Yeah, I'm going to learn about this."
Well,
great.
Yeah, not necessarily for me, but just because it was so interesting and I want to know if it works.
That's exactly what he said with Reiki. He said, bring the table over here and do this on me. I don't know if this can work.
Here's how it works. And she showed me crystals and oils and things. And she explained it all. And I said, wow, Jen, this is amazing. And you work it into your practice or you work it into helping people. I'm not there, yet, but I get it, and I've referred people.
Yeah, and you were open.
That's the key.
That's the key.
Is being
Pretty
open.
open.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
So, you've been a service to others in so many different professions over the years, in all ways, in all these careers. But like, what do you see now as like the greatest need for people?
Well, everywhere you turn now, they look at the society, the fractured, relationships, and from the politicians to the schools, there's endless needs and things. I think they've accelerated, and I don't know that we have the answer for it, but I think there's a tremendous need. Look at our profession.
Mm-hmm.
People all the time are seeking help and support, and with things you wouldn't have thought about before. Things like the political problems, or global warming, or children's problems. Those things like that. There's a lot of things. And so, I think there's great need, and I don't know that there's any resources that are even beginning to meet the need.
Mm. And do you feel like people there are more in need now than maybe in years past?
I think there's probably more in need. I also think they're more willing to talk about it.
Yes, I agree.
Especially men, who wouldn't. I have a number of men clients come in with all kinds of appropriate type issues they have, who might not have come to counseling 25 years ago.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good to hear. That's really good to hear.
Mm-hmm.
So, you've worked as an EMT, as a firefighter, as a teacher, and a superintendent. So what are your coping skills? Because you must have something.
Denial. No, I don't know that I have particular coping skills other than I try to, keep it in perspective, and I'm a relatively calm person, and things like that. I have a wonderful wife who's loving and supportive, so I talk to her about things, and she says, it's okay, we're going to be good. And colleagues, I have one of the things I use is regularly. We'll do cases with individuals, and privately, not sharing any data or information about people, but Dr. Frio, and so we sit often and just, what do you think, and he's really smart, so I get a lot of ideas from him, and so I don't know. I think that's how you cope. You just deal with things over the years, different problems, different things. I used to run a lot. That was good. Knees don't work anymore, but I used to run a lot.
Okay.
And that helps you with because sometimes there are things that just get stuck. Like, there are things that are heavy, especially with the work that we do, and you're able to just let it go.
Well, the physical, the running, the gym, that kind of stuff always used to help. I can't do that anymore, but I liked it a lot. Did it for many years, and it was good. But it's a combination. It's just sort of, you get in the habits of doing things that are useful to you.
Yes.
That's true.
All right. So tell me one useful thing that you did today for yourself.
Walk the dog 1.5 miles.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yes.
He and I go out every day.
Yes.
And I talk to him, and he always agrees with me. And we have a nice long walk. And in the morning, I always like to go. I go about 6 at dawn, and I like to get, it's very quiet. And for me, that's a nice moment of my day.
I walk my dogs then too. Yes.
Do you? Okay,
yes,
good,
I do. It's lovely.
Best time to go.
So this is what people don't recognize, and Jen and I are so adamant about this. Yes, have a little ritual. That's your ritual.
We go 1.5 miles every morning.
You
That's
just
what we
set
do.
yourself up for the day for success.
Yep.
I think it's the nicest time of the day.
Me too. 100%.
Me too. I'm definitely a morning person. Oh yeah.
All morning
We should have done this at 8 a.m.
Yeah.
6.
6. Sunrise
right.
podcast. Well, Dr. Crowley, with your work with your first responders and your firefighters and emergency management people, they have stressful jobs too. So do you think that the people you worked with had coping mechanisms to deal with what they were doing?
No. I think some individuals do, but I think as a class, they don't. The firehouse folks, it's a macho environment, and cops and people like that. There's a strong need to be a rock, and I think sometimes things can be very upsetting in those contexts. Now, our firehouse is a small firehouse in a suburban area. We're not, in the hot places very much.
Yeah.
But I have had patients who are professional firemen that are very, very involved. The EMT group, there's no sense of follow-up or things. There've been calls, and we've talked about it on occasion, but if there's a terrible fire, let's say, the whole firehouse is involved. So if there's a need afterwards, you could secure help for them.
Mm-hmm.
But do they?
They have in places. They do.
Okay.
They do a debrief. They do
Mm-hmm.
things like that, and offer referrals and along those lines. The work as an EMT is the crews are small, and so if you go to a horrific call, there might be you and two folks, two other first responders. There's no one even knows what was going on. And there's no organized, systematic support for post-call things. I can think of some really rough calls where people really needed help, and there was no system in place to get that for them over the years.
Is there a system now?
No.
Wow.
So what could you do, or what do you do?
As an individual, I make folks aware that if someone has a problem, if there was a bad thing and I hear about it, if you got a problem, I know people. I'll refer.
Right.
And, but it's a different mindset in the EMT world. One is more women, and they're would be more inclined to accept if they had a real terrible thing. I can think of one terrible call, refer to a young member, she got help and she's okay.
But they don't know about it. It's not widely
So there's no
known.
set debriefing. And then
there's no one to do that.
Makes-
Your little crew of three comes back to the house with your truck, you clean it up, and you go home.
And you go home.
And, whereas the firehouse will come back and there's 25
There's
guys
support.
cleaning trucks, talking, and the chief will, after every single call, the chief will say, anybody had an injury? Has anybody got a problem? And, before he'll let anyone go home. That's a standard practice. And it would be the time to raise your hand and say, this was bad, what are we going to do?
Right.
But there's no automatic system in there at all. And of course, our house is little. We don't get that kind of business too often, but it could happen.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
So there's definitely still a need.
There's a need for an
services.
automated system.
Yes.
That
Some
somewhere,
procedure.
yeah, the chief or the people would sign off and say, we checked with all our people. And they do it now. If you go to the doctor now, you're sitting there talking to the medical tech, and she's, probably like an 18-year-old girl, and she'll say, do you have any depression?
Yes.
Have you had any
Yes.
episodes of anxiety?
The first time
and
you're
I
like,
always say, oh no, I don't. I'm okay
I'm
today.
fine.
My anxiety is this guy coming in the room in about 2 minutes.
Yeah.
But they
Yeah,
do it
that's-
automatically
yes.
everywhere. They
Yeah.
don't
But
do it
not
with
there.
first responders.
Yeah.
but it's so interesting that you said that, because it's this 18-year-old MA, medical assistant that's asking you this question, and most of them aren't even looking up from their paper. So they're just saying, "Do you have any depression?"
Yeah,
They don't
they're
even
typing on a
look at
computer.
exactly.
They're checking a box on
They
the computer.
aren't
But if I
even-
said yes,
Yes, what would happen?
I believe she would tell the doctor.
Yeah, she would tell the doctor. Yeah,
That's her job.
Yeah,
She would say
her job isn't to do anything
she's certainly not
except
doing anything
report.
other than
She's
Right.
reporting the
Right.
yeses.
work her
Right.
checklist.
Yeah.
But I would imagine if and I always tell them, I say, I'm really glad you asked that question. I said, and they'll say something like, oh, really? Yeah, I'm really glad you asked it. I'm good. But,
Yeah,
I think it's great you do it. And I've talked to a couple of doctors about it. I talked to one doctor about it a while back. Where I had to go for a checkup, and the doc asked the question herself. And I said, okay, well, no, I'm good. And, she knows what I do. And so I said, but I'm really glad you're asking that. She says, I
Yes.
ask it for every patient that I see. And every now and then, someone will say something that'll lead me to more questions. And I said, that's just great. And she said, but there's people that are opposed to us doing that. That's not our lane. And I said, really? And she said, yeah. She said, you'd be surprised. And I said, I would be, but I'm glad you're doing it. And keep it up. Keep
So,
doing it.
Yes.
what I'm wondering, if the pediatricians are doing that, but of course the parents usually in the room, like with a 12-year-old or a
Mhm.
13-year-old, because that problems are starting in junior high.
I don't know what the pediatrician.
Yeah, me either. That's something we need to find
Well, we've
out.
had some discrepancies I've had where the kids have filled out. Sometimes they have a more detailed form, like, are you feeling depressed, or, have you had scary thoughts? And the kids are writing yes, 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 yes. And then the parents are going, well, they didn't really mean that. They didn't really mean that.
Interesting.
Like they're a little over the top. So I don't know. I think there has to be more uniform procedure for that too. But you're right. You make a good point where the parents are usually in the room.
Right.
Pediatrician.
So, is a child actually, or, adolescent going to come forward and
or
say,
be honest and truthful.
Be honest.
It's also about asking the right question. If you ask an adolescent, are you depressed? No.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But your question, how's your sleep been?
Yes.
Have you lost any weight?
Eating?
Are you getting along with your friends? Have you joined anything?
Yeah.
No.
Exactly.
That might be a clue that
Ask
there's more
the
questions
right
to be asked.
question.
Yeah. It's how you
Said
how
like
you
a
do
true
it.
counselor.
That's right.
It's all about the question, right?
It is.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, you worked as a college professor.
If I could go back to one thing with first responders.
Absolutely.
Because your question prompted me to think a little bit.
Yeah.
And you asked about first responders training in mental health areas. It's almost non-existent. It is non-existent for firefighters. For EMTs in New Jersey, and if you take a standard EMT course, there is a section in there, couple of hours worth of discussion of, because you might be on a call. They always call it a crisis call, whether it is or it isn't. But there could be an alcohol problem, could be a serious mental health breakdown, whatever it is. You get some training, but very little. And for police officers, 30 minutes of training in the police academy. And the reason I know this is we have to take continuing education, to maintain certifications. And I took a course from a guy, a couple courses now from a guy. His name is Lieutenant Mark Fabricatori. He's a lieutenant in Bayonne. Might be a great candidate for your podcast. Okay. He spent his career as a police officer dealing with sex crimes, children abuse, and he's a very interesting guy. He's a burly, tough character, but that's his role. And but one of the things he laments, he says, you guys get a little training, the police officers get none. And the police officer is the only one with any authority who comes to a crisis call, who can actually cause someone to go to the hospital. You can call the cops and send them over for the wellness check kind of thing. But he said they have no real training and they're not going to make a judgment on the street, but in just handling the situation, dealing with the individual. And he's always pushing, this should be something that is taught. It should be something that they're skilled at, how to talk to someone, how to de-escalate a problem, these kind of things. He's a really interesting officer.
But he makes a good point, because, when we did our other episode with Bobby Deacon, that's what was happening. I was having some of my law enforcement patients coming in and saying just that. And they weren't prepared to deal with what they were actually going to see.
Well, I think he's right.
Yeah. And then, Bobby asked us to come in and do a training with the class 1 at the
when he was it was use of force.
Use of force, yes.
And so he weaved us into that, and we had an hour and a half with but it could have been longer. And he was shocked at how receptive the 60 cadets were.
Yeah.
So
they wanted more.
It's a great thing to add to their curriculum.
Yeah.
But if you ever talk to Mark, he'll tell you story after story. We sent these young kids in there. The young cops come out of the academy. Some haven't been through any college courses or any training in psychology or anything. They've had this academy training, and they are dealing with someone who's in a mental crisis and with emotional family members and all these things going on. And he said they're just underprepared. They're just not ready. Yeah. But his point is, they are the only one with any authority to cause someone to go to the hospital or to take someone, into custody. And they are the ones who aren't trained.
They're not trained
to
themselves.
Recognize and understand what might be happening. Anyway, he's a really interesting fellow, so I would recommend him to you guys.
We'll have to look him up.
Yes. So now we have two things: the training for the EMT and additional training, of course, for police officers, which we knew. We didn't know about the EMTs. So see, very worthwhile.
We're going to have to do some more investigating.
So let's move on to college professor. Do you feel that the students that you taught were prepared to deal with what was happening in today's education? And what additional skills do you think, like, school counselors need right now in today's world?
Well, I'm a little bit of a cynic. I don't think any college program or course is going to prepare you for the real world. Student teachers don't learn teaching till they get there. Till they actually.
Sure.
Student counselors the same. They learn it. Oh, I got all the theory and I have all the ideas and all the questions to ask, but now I'm in the real life situation. So I think they're prepared academically, but they're not prepared practically, and they can't be. You have to get there, and actually do the work under supervision, and through an internship or the kind of things, and then experience. I think is the best teacher that they're going to get. I always used to tell our teachers, if you're a brand new teacher, don't worry how hard it is. You're going to make terrible mistakes. I'm going to tell you it's going to take you 5 years till you should be hitting it out of the park on a regular basis, confidently, professionally. And that's just how long it's going to take you to learn what you need to know, really, and have some experience dealing with special needs children, with parents, with, all kinds of, with the administrators, all kinds of stuff, and that you can prepare and do your work. And so I think we did a good job with the students that we had, but I think they got their real practical education on the job.
Yeah. Of course. So
you need it.
Looking,
except for Jen. Jen was ready to go when she was finished. There was no question.
I remember sitting in class with another colleague when I was working in Lakewood, and Dr. Crowley was talking about all these things that need to be in place for a good program to run, and we were sitting there going, "Wait, but our school doesn't do that. We don't have that. What are we going to do?"
Yeah.
So we were more terrified.
In theory.
Yes, in theory.
We were terrified lots of the time in his class.
So, this is on the subject, off the subject. What do you think today's schools should be offering for students? What's lacking in the schools right now? And I'm
college or high school?
No, I'm talking K to 12.
K to 12.
What's
generally
lacking?
Or mental health related?
Well, mental health related. If a student can't sit in a class, then they need to learn that first before they're going to be able to learn Algebra 1.
Mm-hmm.
So,
sure. Well, yeah, that's true.
Yeah. A lot of teachers would argue with me though about that.
Well, they're wrong. You have to be ready to learn.
Yes.
To learn.
Right. So so what are we missing here? What can we offer? And it's hard because there's so many academic requirements, testing, but what are we missing? Because we're missing something.
Well, we've been in a lot of schools, and we see that there's definitely something missing.
Missing academically, or missing from
in preparing students to be able to deal with life?
I don't know that schools ever did. I think schools are academic places. I think you get prepared for life by having a summer job, by having a parents who take you to church, or who you play on a team, or you do things. I think that those kind of things, your question about resilience, I think those things are important. Academically, sure, you need to know math. I think the schools do not do anything with world language, and I think it's ridiculous. We used to have some foster kids over the years, and we had one once, a wonderful gal from Lithuania, and when she came to us as a high school student, she spoke Lithuanian, and she spoke Russian, she spoke German, and she spoke English, and I said, well, how'd you do that? What happened? She said, well, in our school, we go to school from 8 o'clock in the morning to 5 o'clock at night. And we start taking these subjects when we're in grade school, and you're expected to know these things. Mm-hmm. In New Jersey, high school, you're required under the code to take 1 year of academic foreign language, world language. Right? It used to be 2. They cut it back because it was too hard, and now you can even take sort of a watered down, like,
conversational.
Yeah, holidays and traditions,
mm-hmm.
and not have to know the language. And the state has walked away from it repeatedly because
that's true.
It's hard and it's expensive, and you got to train the teachers. But to me, that would be a wonderful thing that's lacking.
And I'm going to go back to something you said. You said, well, it's the outside experiences. And you know what? Yeah. I think that you're right. I think it's very true. I think that, I remember when I was in a school and the parents would say, well, you're responsible for educating my child. Everything. They wanted us to do everything. And so maybe some parents aren't taking the responsibility to make sure they have outside activities,
well, they've also
get
changed.
a summer job.
They've also changed. The outside activities cost money.
Yes.
Yes, that's true.
Yes.
And the used to be there was, somewhere to go, a team to go play on. And
Right.
it was free. You could play for the rec or somebody, you could do
now
that.
it's very
That's true.
expensive.
Yeah. Summer
Yeah.
jobs, I think, are great for high school kids.
Totally agree.
There's so many, but not just summer jobs. The service programs, the key clubs, the things where you're out doing something in the community and learning about how people are. You learn about people, customers, by having a summer job and you're working in a store or
No
being
question.
a waitress or a clerk somewhere. You learn how to deal with people.
Yeah.
You're not going to learn that in school.
It's the practical, everyday experience that offers you that opportunity to grow.
But the school is important because you should have the ability to communicate, the ability for technology. You should have the languages. You should have all the tools. That's what I think the school is for. That is just my
Yeah,
mindset.
no,
That's a good one.
Yeah, I think so too.
So let's talk about what was it like being a superintendent?
Terrible.
Running the whole show.
I was a superintendent for 19 years.
Wow.
It's a long time.
And it was, it's a good job in that you can pursue things that you think are important, that you want done. And it's a political job, which most of the school jobs aren't, because you're dealing with Board of Education and the mayor and the town people and budgets. It's it was a good job. It was, a hard job. Sometimes it's impossible. They want something, money, that kind of thing. Look at the schools now. The cuts they're making in Toms River and Brick and Jackson, places like that are enormous. It's absolutely enormous. Millions of dollars that are being cut out. All the COVID money's gone, and they're struggling. They're laying people off. They're not. No one's invested in those schools. They're trying to hang on.
Yeah. Do you think that was your hardest job?
In some ways, yeah, very much. It was hard. It was, it was daily. It was,
constant.
It was always something. I remember my wife tells a story. I'd be out cutting the grass, walking up and down the rows, and we lived in the town. We lived in Point Beach. People would drive up, get out of their car, walk up, and say, "I want to talk to you about Mrs. So-and-so, the third grade teacher."
Oh my goodness,
and
that's outrageous.
No relief.
Well, it's okay. What am I going to say? No, get off my lawn. What I would say is, okay, I'll talk to you, but you got to walk with it. Make them walk up and down the rows while I'm pushing the thing. We could talk. I'm not going to stop cutting the grass.
Everybody wouldn't have done that, though.
Well,
they would have said, "Hey, make an appointment with my
secretary.
This is my home time."
It was kind of easier to deal with somebody, that way. I thought, and it was okay. It was
good for
a
you.
thing. It was good when we moved out of the town, and I got a little distance, though. We did that after 10 years. So
that's good too. And then, what was it like leaving the schools?
When I left, after all that time, I'd been 30 years, 25 in administration, and it was time to go. I thought, it was time to go. I used the term with you before. It was like all the noise turned off. I went home. Nobody called me. Nobody was mad at me.
Yep, I love that.
Nobody was mad. I just got in, went off to the college, and it was wonderful. It was a whole new
Did
thing.
everyone really just leave you alone after that? They just focused on the new superintendent.
The new superintendent, he dealt with it. Every now I talked to him. We would talk often and call each other, and what do you need? How you doing? I knew stuff, where stuff was, and but no.
Can you say that phrase again for us? All the noise.
All the noise turned off. It stopped.
All right.
Love
Thank
that.
you. I
So
think
anyone listening,
everybody needs to
remember
hear that.
You need to hear the
All the
noise
superintendents who
turn
might
off.
be watching, you
Yes.
need to hear it.
Yes.
There'll be a day when all the noise turns off.
I love that.
All right.
I love that.
Yeah, it was a time for me to go.
How has education changed in the years? Like, or even in the time that you were in 30 years, like what did you see that was changing?
Well, when I started, there was a computer in the hall. and it was about as big as a refrigerator, and they kept it in a cage. It was locked so kids couldn't mess with it. But the fellow who taught the class would go down with his kids, and they had, you probably don't remember these. They had these cardboard cards.
I remember
that they were hole punched, and they would be big tall stacks of them, about 4 feet high, and the kids would stand on a little step ladder and feed them into a chute, and then the machine would read them and create a printout that would come out the bottom on paper that was about as wide as this table. And that was the computer in the district. And we marveled at it. We thought, look what it does. And then they got the little Apple IIe's, if you remember the monochromatic. You know, we had 20. Superintendents will go around and say, how many you have?
Yeah.
You know, it was like, you know, how big is your crowd size? You know, like, and yeah, well, I got 20. Well, I got 25.
Ooh.
You know, and you know, I have 2 whole rooms built for that now. And it was, we began. And now every kid has, you know, a Chromebook in his hand and is wired in. And many lessons are designed and taught from the internet. You know, it's to me, that's the biggest change, the technology. Schools were the same since the Greeks. You know, you're going to read, you're going to study, you're going to recite.
Right.
Then it changed. I think it's for the good. You know, I think that, you know, they give so many more opportunities for teachers and things that they can use them.
You're definitely a forward thinker.
Yes.
Well, not everyone would sit here and agree with you. They would say, well, the old way was the better way.
Well, I don't think so. You know, it's.
Oh, trust me.
Oh no, I
Jen
think
and
they
I
might
know
say
people
such
that would
things,
say that.
But I think the tools that the teachers have. I'm not saying that the policies are any better. You know, things like that. I took a course, and we had our classroom of 20 computers, and so they were offering basic programming to the students. So I signed up and took the class with the kids, with the seniors, and the whole course ended up. The final exam was I had to tell the computer and make it print something a design approved. And so, you know, it took me all semester to put in all these things and all the code, and in the end, push the thing, and the big wide printer starts printing, you know, like my name or some initials or something, and it comes out big letters, and I got a B.
Oh.
And I remember the teacher. And the other kids were getting A's. I was like, you know, looking at what we're all looking at our stuff. And I said, you didn't give me an A. And she said, no, it's a B. And you're going to have to live with that. And take another class, she said. And I said, no, I'm never coming back. It was too hard, you know, to be a programmer. All the schools shifted out of programming almost right away.
Yeah.
It's all application now.
In
the beginning, they thought computers, the subject was going to be, we'll teach the kids to program. And no, it's never that. I'm sure you can do it somewhere.
Right.
So a lot of changes, but that's the biggest change. This changed again, by the way. Now it's all, you know, the technology's here. It's here to stay. It's everybody, kids grow up in it. They don't know anything different.
Yeah, that's true.
How do you view failure?
I don't like it. Oh, I don't know. You know, nobody likes failure. Failure, you know, you could say, well, it's time to try again, or you could say, give up and go away. It depends on.
And what do you say?
It depends on the situation. You know, if I fail, I said, it's never going to happen.
Just like the programming course.
Yes.
You said, okay, we didn't fail, but you got a B. You wanted that A, we could tell.
Well, no, I just wanted to win, you know. Like, you know, but it was, I knew I couldn't do that. I'm terrible at math and things. And I'm not good at that stuff. And so, no, I knew it was not my place. But I wanted to see what they were doing. Once it was like, it was so new. I mean, I never saw one, never worked with one, didn't own one, you know, so it was a chance to do something.
Yeah, for sure. So what do you think are your 3 most important strengths? You know, we just sitting here talking to you, looking at your bio, I mean, you have lots of strengths. What are your 3 most important? And maybe they're the 3 most important today.
Yeah.
You know, because things change.
Yeah.
I mean, you know.
Right. I can't run anymore. I think I'm generally calm in difficult times.
You are.
You
wouldn't be able to do the work you're doing if you weren't.
I can generally, you know, try to think of something to do rather than get all flustered and nervous. So I think it's been useful for me that way. I am curious. I do like to read and to try stuff, you know, come here to a podcast, and, you know, like it's sure. I'm interested in seeing what it's about and learning more about it. And I think I genuinely like most folks. You know, I can get along with most people.
Yes.
Not everybody, but most people.
So the curiosity, not everybody thinks of curiosity as a strength.
No.
But while you were talking here, I thought he is such a curious man. And I think that curiosity that's what keeps you young, is to stay curious. It's like when you walk your dog, your dog is your dog is so curious about everything. You know, we can learn so much from our animals, but yeah, that is a great strength, and communication is definitely a strength for you. You know, and being able
the fact that you can get along, you can get along with just about anyone. I don't think many people can. Most people would not say that.
Right.
They wouldn't.
Right.
Mm-mm. Well, it takes two. I mean, they have to be willing to get along with you.
Yes.
But in general, sure, I think you have to get along, do stuff like that. Yeah.
So we always talk about what is going well in your life right now.
Oh, well, that's a great question. What's going well? Well,
we think so.
Well, everyone always wants to know what's not going well. They always tell you about what's not going well.
You walk in, you know, you have friends that call you up.
So what's the matter?
What's wrong with you?
Why are you here today? What's the problem?
You know? So what's
going well? Well, what's going well is, like I said before, I have a wonderful wife and a terrific family. And, you know, she's great. She's supportive. I love her. And the kids are great. And we have 7 grandchildren.
Wow,
and
congratulations.
Just had a brand new one this year who's now 5 months old, who's a little tank, you know, that guy. But, you know, and to me, that's just joy. You know, it's just wonderful having all those folks around. And they're very supportive and good to us. You know, they're good that way. I think that's good. I think the counseling's still going pretty well. I've cut back, as we were talking before. But for me, it's, you know, going fine. I like it. I like what I do. And I think I do it okay. And I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's a lot.
A lot. It sounds like you do.
So you know, you have actually been serving people your entire life.
Yeah.
And you know, you want to be happy, do something for someone else. That's you, for sure. You know, I don't even know that you're so humble. I don't even know that you recognize how much you give.
You do it because you like it. You know, there's a lot of kinds of service I would never do.
Like what?
Well, for a little while, I was on the board of directors or trustees, whatever they were, of the Monmouth Ocean Food Bank.
Okay.
And they always wanted you to raise money. And I never raise money. You know, I might go out. I'll go stuff cans for a day, but I will not go out and ask you for a donation. You know, I'd feel really bad doing that. Really awkward. You know, so. There's something I wouldn't do.
Okay. Well, that's good.
It's a form of service.
Yeah.
And some people are great at it.
Some people are very good at raising money.
They are.
And you need them in any organization.
Yes,
exactly. You do.
But you don't need me for that.
So you said you can't run anymore, and I know you have the joy of your grandchildren. But what else are you doing that's just for you?
Not a whole. I mean, I like to sit quietly and read. My wife and I, we do go up to Mystic, Connecticut every couple of weeks to see kids up there. But we have a little condo, so we go around and go to Seaport and see the whales and, you know, stuff like that. And, you know, for us, it's a very relaxing time. You know, we like to go together and go find restaurants and stuff. So I do that just for me.
That's good.
Yeah.
Very good.
It's been great for us. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Enjoying life.
Exactly. You've had such your life is just so full.
Yes.
It's
a
full
stuff, life. Full life.
Yeah,
for sure. So we always end up each episode by asking a few questions. I don't know that you got those.
I don't think I said no.
The surprise questions.
Yeah, the surprise questions.
Surprise questions, because I saw him. You looked at your notes. Is there something in your life that you would like to change?
Well, I can't change what I did. Things that I'd like to change now?
Right now.
Anything.
Is there something in your life that you want to change?
Sure. I'd like to lose some weight. I'd like to go back to running. I'd like to be able to be young again.
Oh, boy. Well,
you can't help me with this.
Maybe the first one.
Maybe the
So what is holding you back?
From
making a
losing
change.
weight, from running, from getting younger. Of course, you can't do that.
Oh, me. You know, lazy.
Yeah.
Don't do it. You know, like everybody else, I talk about it every New Year's. And, you know.
Oh, Jen's going to have to talk to you about New Year's resolutions.
Oh, yeah. Well, in the research that we did for the book, we found out that, you know, most people, you can only really sustain it for about 19, 20 days before your brain registers that what you're doing is hard. So there's actually something called Quitter's Day.
Oh, no kidding.
Yep. So Quitter's Day is actually
I think I found that
January 19th. It's
about that?
quitter's day
Okay.
because after that is when after that amount of time is when your brain registers that what you're doing is hard, and most people go, hell with this, I'm done. So that's why.
Have you heard about that thing folks do now where they have 10 tasks to complete every day? So you have to do 30 minutes of exercise. You have to read a chapter of your book.
Yes, 75 hard. That challenge?
Yeah, that one.
Mhm.
And you have to take a picture of yourself every day and all these things. And I had one of my patients did that. And she, great accomplishment, you know, and she would, every time she would come, she'd say, I'm on day so-and-so, and here's what I've done. And, you know, that's great. Keep going, kid. And, but I'm thinking in a million years, I couldn't do all that stuff.
Yeah.
Because I'd be on Quitter's Day.
Quitter's
Day. On the 19th day.
Exactly.
So you probably are kind of answering my last question, which is, what is one thing you could do right now to move forward with any of those things that you want to change?
Pull myself together and get some resolve. You know, I think it's,
I like that.
Yeah.
I mean, because like anything you're going to do, taking a class, doing something, you got to get in and go and say, this is going to happen. You know, I'm going to do it. Not tell everybody, but just sort of
make it a priority.
Make it a priority
make
for
it
yourself.
important and stick to it and get past that 19th day.
Yeah, there you
know,
go.
Exactly.
Which is a new thing. So I learned that from Jen.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. All right.
Well, Dr. Crowley, if people who are listening wanted to see you or get an appointment with you, how can they find you?
They can just call my cell, which is how people mostly find me. And it's 908-433-8001. And leave a message, and I call everybody back pretty quickly.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. And your practice is in Point Pleasant?
Point Pleasant Beach.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
Been there for 20 years.
A while.
Yeah. As we wrap up, we always finish with just a little statement of remember to pause, breathe, and then respond.
Yes, absolutely. And thank you for listening to this episode. And if you want to learn more about us, your hosts, you can find us on our website. Mine is MindsetNJ at, hold on. No, it's not. www.mindsetnj.com. And Cindy's is www.mindfulnessconnection.com. We are on social media at Mindset Jen and at Mindfulness Connection. We also have a YouTube channel at The Elevation Principles, and our book, The Elevation Principles, is available on Amazon. So thank you for tuning in, and we will be back again with another wonderful change maker coming soon.
Yeah. Thank you so much,
Thank
Dr.
you so much,
Crowley.
Dr.
Thank you
Crowley,
both for
coming.
inviting me.
It
This
was
was
really,
a great
really
experience.
fun. Yes.
Wonderful.
Thank you.